I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a public hearing of the Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals, Division 3. I'm Joanna Taft, Chairperson of Division 3. Other board members present: to my left, Roderick Bohannon; to my right, Cameron Radford. And we are expecting Percy Bland in a few minutes. Legal counsel for the board today is Chris Steinmetz. Staff members present today from the Division of Planning are Eddie Honea, Principal Planner 2, Jeffrey York, Senior Planner, Robert Uhlenhake, Senior Planner, Marlene Iraheta, Senior Planner, Genesis Hill, Associate Planner, Heather Steffen, Senior Specialist and Secretary to the board. Matt Pleasant is the current Planning Administrator. The board has copies of the zoning ordinances that will be incorporated by reference into the record of each case heard today. The proceedings of this hearing are governed by the board's rules of procedure. The expedited cases will be heard immediately after all requests for continuances or withdrawals. As each non-expedited case is called, petitioners and remonstrators interested in that particular case will please stand. Those who intend to testify will please remain standing and be sworn. Petitioners should be on your left and remonstrators on your right as you face the board. Those who testify will state their name and address for the record before beginning to testify. Petitioners and persons appearing in support of the case being heard shall have a maximum of 15 minutes for the presentation of evidence, statements, and arguments in support of the petition. Remonstrators and persons appearing in opposition to the petition shall have a maximum of 15 minutes for the presentation of evidence, statements, and arguments in opposition to the petition. Staff will then present the administrator's comments regarding the petition. The petitioner will be allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal and a summation of the case. Rebuttal must be limited to the subject matter of the initial presentations. Remonstrators will then be allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal of the petitioner's rebuttal evidence and a brief closing statement. No further evidence, statements, or arguments will be heard unless it's at the discretion of the board. Please limit your testimony and evidence to the matters covered in the statutory requirements, which must be met in order for the board to grant a variance. If the petitioners have failed to comply with all notice requirements as stipulated by the board's rules of procedure, including posting of the notice sign on the subject property at least 23 days prior to the hearing, the board may continue the petition. Anyone at this hearing who thinks complete and proper notice has not been given and would like the petition continued due to lack of proper notice must bring this matter to the board's attention at the beginning of the hearing. The board may impose various conditions or commitments as amendments before reaching a decision on certain petitions. The installation of landscaping and screening, the paving of parking area, and the dedication of rights-of-way are examples. These conditions and commitments are an integral part of the board's decision and must be met for a granted variance to be valid. Compliance with the conditions imposed by the board must be proved by an affidavit of compliance submitted by the petitioner within 30 days of completion. Unless otherwise specified, an improvement location permit must be obtained prior to the establishment of the authorized improvements. Failure to comply with any conditions or commitments of a variance grant is a violation enforceable by the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services. A person may file a written request to receive notice of the filing of a petition for judicial review of a decision of the board. The written request must be filed within 5 days of the board's decision and must include the person's full name and correct mailing address and a reference to the board's petition number. Forms are available and may be obtained from the board's secretary. Please be advised that contacting members of the board regarding a matter pending before the board outside of this public hearing process is prohibited. Please be courteous and orderly at all times, and please be sure all cell phone ringers are turned off. Please note that there are only 4 board members present today. We hope we'll have 4. Right now we have 3. Your request will need 3 votes to take action on a request. So if an indecisive vote occurs, your petition will be automatically continued to the next hearing of the board. So if you are worried that right now we have 3 or that we will only have 4 and we could have a indecisive vote, then we will consider, you can ask for continuance. Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions about our procedures? If not, we will continue with special, actually, before we continue with special requests, I do want to ask for a waiver of our rules of procedure to allow the board to vote for all expedited petitions and adopt their findings of fact without any additional testimony from the individual petitioners. So I'm going to ask the board member to make a motion.
Bohannon, so moved.
And a second.
Second.
I'll now ask for a vote. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft, yes. And now we will consider special requests and continuances at this time.
Good afternoon, Madam Hearing Examiner and board members. I am Attorney John Cross. Address is 13 North State Street, Suite 241, Greenfield, Indiana 46140. Here today on the third agenda on the continued petition as amended, petition number 2022 DB3014 regarding 337 Parkway Avenue. The petitioner has made a request for cause. At the start of this project, there was an automatic continuance due to lack of notices being sent out as we had not received them. For the next hearing, the petitioner requested an automatic continuance for the purposes of providing more time to work with the interested local neighborhood land use committee, staff, and other remonstrators we've been discussing with. Since then, the petitioner has made some concessions to the original proposed project for this plan. Part of the problem here was the property was approved permits under the old ordinances, and so there's been some discussion with staff how that applied to these new variances, whether or not old approved permitting ordinances could still be moved forward if these were granted. We are understanding that no, they are not, so all proposed improvements must comply with the current ordinances. Due to that, the petitioner has prepared an updated amended site plan, but it was not shared with staff and the interested parties until June 13th, which did not provide staff enough time to review and provide a staff report. We are still looking to meet again with the Neighborhood Land Use Committee, which date is in the near future, so it was not prior to this, so we're seeking more time to meet again with them and offer feedback and see if there will be any more amendments to the petition. So due to the staff report, due to the only being 3 members here today and the chance of an indecisive vote, we are seeking an additional continuance. Another request for it is when we submitted the amended site plan, we did propose a continuance, and we were informed that one of the neighbor remonstrators who's present here today, Ms. Salzman, was going to request an automatic continuance. I did receive a voicemail from her last Thursday indicating that she had not, but asked the petitioner go ahead and submit the request for continuance for cause, which is what we went ahead and did with the understanding that she wanted the continuance as well. But we do understand that here today she will oppose such a continuance. But again, we're requesting a continuance for cause to allow additional time to work with all the parties on this project. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a petitioner or a remonstrator?
Yes, my name is Jean Salzman, and I live at 337 Parkway Avenue, so I'm directly at Catacorner to this property. I have since what Mr. Cross said, spoken to Genesis Hill and let her know in several emails that I was no longer interested in another continuance. I do have 5 letters here of neighbors, neighboring homeowners who are opposed to this variance petition. Further, the prior variance request for 2 houses on the property was denied on February 19, 2019, and they were told to come back with a plan for 1 house. From the staff report, from Larry Calloway, the existing parcel can only have...
So we're not going to hear the whole case right now?
Sure. Okay. I just wanted to say that, briefly, that the existing parcel can only have 1 dwelling.
Okay.
So my feeling is that we're going to come back to the same place. Now, if the continuance is so that we can discuss the 1 house, then I am not objecting.
Okay. All right. Let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff is supportive of the continuance request to the July 19th hearing. As you can see, I did not provide a staff report. That is because an amended site plan was provided to us on June 13th, and I would like more time to evaluate that with other staff members. I would note that this would be the last continuance request that staff will support.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Bohannon, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to pull the board. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft, yes. 2022 DV3014 has been continued to our July 19th meeting.
Thank you.
I just got word that our fourth board member will not be able to be here, so we have 3 board members, which means we all 3 have to agree for your case to advance. So we're, if you want to request a continuance, we're very likely to approve that because we only have 3 board members, just let you know. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name's Matthew Tews, and this is in petition number 2022 DV22 for the property address of 6945 Pendleton Pike. And we're just requesting a continuance due to our attorneys out of town and couldn't make it. And also we're working with staff members to change the building plans and site plans. So we need a 30-day continuance if that's okay.
Okay. Is there a remonstrator present?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's hear from staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff has no objection to the continuance to the July 19, 2022 hearing for 2022-DV3-022.
Okay. I need a motion.
Bohannon, so moved.
I need a second.
Second.
I'm going to pull the board. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft? 2022 DV3-022 has been continued to our July 19th hearing.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Taft, members of the board. Joe Calderon, 11 South Meridian, Indianapolis. I represent the petitioner in 2022 DV3004. It's the first petition in the continued petition portion of your docket today. We would request that this case be continued to August 16th, which I know is a ways out there. This case has some complications to it. I have been in contact with Remonstrators Council, who I believe might be here in the back this afternoon, as well as staff, and they are supportive of this continuance request without notice. Since we're really dealing with one party, we do understand that this will be our last continuance request.
Okay. Is there a remonstrator present? Let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff has no objection to the continuance to the August 16, 2022 hearing date without additional notice, and that will be the final continuance that staff will support.
Okay. I need a motion.
Bohannon, so moved.
Second.
Second.
I'm going to pull the board. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft? Yes. 2022 DV3004 has been continued to our August 16th meeting.
Thank you.
Chairman Taft, members of the board, David Kingan with offices at 6180 East Market Street, here before you on 2 petitions. The first being the very first petition under your new petition is 2022 DV3018, property located at 24 East Street in Southport. We had filed a request to continue this for cause to allow us to provide elevations of the proposed residence to the staff. And we know of no remonstrators, no call. We've received no calls on this petition. So we would request that this be continued to your July meeting, and that would be without additional notice.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who's interested in 2022 DV3018? Let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff has no objection to the continuance request to the July 19, 2022 hearing date without additional notice, seeing that this is the first request that the petitioner is requesting. And that'll be all.
Okay. I need a motion.
Bohannon, so moved.
I need a second.
Second.
I'll pull the board. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft, yes. This will be the last, or the next case on the, so far well, we already did expedited, so I guess we do it all together. I'm sorry. Yes, the third case on our expedited list. Thank you. Continue.
Could you clarify, Chairman Taft, what is happening with this petition? Because I believe the petitioner asked to continue it.
I heard him say expedited. I'm so sorry.
No, no, no
We
problem.
will continue, and you voted to, your motion was to continue. Then we're going to continue. By golly, we're going to continue this.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did you say July
19th is what
Okay,
staff-
sorry about that. I could not hear a word that Marlene was saying, by the way. So-
Okay, I'll try to get closer to this.
Okay.
Also, Chairman Taft, members of the board, again, David Kingen with offices at 618 East Market Street. We were prepared today to move forward on the second petition under your continued petitions, 2022 DV3009. However, given that there are only 3 members here, what we'd like to request of the board is that we had filed with the staff that we wanted to split this petition between a Part A and a Part B. And Part A would deal with the 2 setback issues, one a 21-foot setback on the, that would be on the north side, and then a 27-foot setback on the east side. We'd like to ask, and then the Part B was to deal with the barbed wire. Given that you only have 3 members, I'm going to suggest that we continue Part B to your July 19th hearing, and that we take the 2 setback issues, which staff is supporting, and we know of no remonstrance, and request that the board move Part A to the expedited portion of your docket, if that's possible.
Okay, so let's first poll the board. Is there anyone in the audience who is against splitting the splitting this out like he's suggested for 2022 DV3009? Okay, let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff would prefer to keep the petition as a whole. We do have a split vote, however, so that can be taken into account by the board.
Okay, so he has asked to separate them, to hear them 2 different times, and staff is saying they prefer to keep it together, but that we, through our ballots, can split it at the time. So we would need a motion if to go forward with what Mr. Kingen has suggested, or we would not have a motion to go with what staff is saying. Is that correct? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion? There's no motion, Mr. Kingen. Sorry.
So they'll both be heard today.
So my understanding is that we would hear these together, and we could separate the ballots when we hear them together, but you're asking to continue part of it to July 19th. Is that what you just said?
That was my request, yes.
Right, and I think we didn't approve the, let's see. We need another, so first of all, we didn't motion to hear the expedited today. Is that correct? So we're not doing that today. So now you want a motion to continue everything to next month?
No. We're prepared to move forward today with both.
You are going to move forward today? Okay. With 3 people? Okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Taft, members of the board. My name is David Gilman, and I represent 211 South Ritter Street, Indianapolis 46219. I represent petition 2022 UV3013 with the address of 203 West Moore Street. Staff is recommending approval subject to 2 conditions. My client is in agreement with those conditions, and we don't believe we have any remonstrators. So if you would like to poll the audience, and if we have no remonstrators, we'd like to be put on your expedited portion of today's docket.
Is there anyone in the audience who is interested in 2022 UV3013 and is against this being placed on the expedited docket? Seeing none, let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff is recommending approval of 2022 UV 3013, subject to the commitments on file in the staff report, and would not be opposed to it being moved to the expedited docket.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to pull the board. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft? Yes. So this will be added to the expedited docket.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and staff. I'm Jamila Mintz, address 1211 Madison Avenue. Here in reference to 2022 DV3-023 2703 Guilford Avenue. We just recently did a revision recommended by staff that there is a 5-foot rear setback. That has since been corrected, and at this point I just found out that there's a little discrepancy on the findings of facts for this, so before finding that out, we were hoping to do an expedited petition for today, but I'm open to find out how we would need to proceed from this point with that.
First of all, let me just pull the board or pull the audience, see if anyone's interested in this case. 2022 DB3023. Anyone here interested in that case? Okay, let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Can you hear me better? Okay.
Yeah.
Staff was recommending approval of this so long as they meet a 5-foot rear setback. They have decided to agree on that, and this can be placed on the expedited portion of the docket. However, it would require an adoption of revised finding of fact if that is acceptable by corporate counsel.
Yes, it certainly can go on the expedited docket, but the findings of fact will be adopted at our next meeting.
Okay. Okay. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
I'm going to pull the board. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Taft? Yes. And Taft. Okay. So 2022 DB3023 will be on our expedited docket.
Thank you.
Was this petition amended to go to a 5-foot rear setback from the 0 that was published?
Yes.
That is correct.
Then the board needs to acknowledge that amendment.
And I will acknowledge the amendment.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. My name is Mark Crouch, 124 East Pleasant Run Parkway. I have 2 petitions today. The first, 2022 DB3021. Staff has recommended approval if we make certain amendments, which would be eliminating the 4-foot setback, and going to a 5-foot, and adjusting the open space to 50%. We are asking for that to be acknowledged, and with that, move to the expedited portion of the docket.
I'm acknowledging the amendment, and I'm polling the audience to see if there's anyone here who's interested in 2022 DB3021. Okay, and then I'm going to ask for a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, staff. Let's hear from staff.
Staff is now recommending approval of 2022 DV3021, subject to the site plan that was filed with us, or the amended site plan. So we're supportive of it.
Okay. Motion?
Bohannon, so move.
Second?
Second.
I'm going to pull the board. Bohannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft, yes. 2022 DV3021 has been moved to our expedited docket.
Thank you. The second petition, 2022 DV3017. Staff has the same recommendation. We are asking to amend the petition eliminating the 4-foot side yard setback in favor of the 5-foot, which is allowed, and the reduction of the open space to 50% from 60, with an amended site plan to be filed with staff.
Okay, I'm acknowledging the amendment. I'm going to poll the audience. Is there anyone in the audience interested in 2022 UV3017? Seeing none, let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff is now recommending approval based on the amended site plan that was submitted. So,
Okay, I need a motion.
Bohannon, so move.
Second.
Second.
I'm going to poll the board. Bohannon.
Bohannon, yes.
Radford.
Yes.
Taft, yes. 2022 UV3 017 has been moved to our expedited docket.
Thank you.
did you say UV3 or DV3?
I said U. Did I mean D?
Yes.
Okay. Let me clarify, DV3. And all your votes were for DV3, correct? Okay.
Thank you.
Chairperson, staff members of the board, staff will draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV3-008 located at 10195 East 86th Street. After the publication of the report, the petitioner did submit a request that this petition will be withdrawn. That would just require your acknowledgement.
It's acknowledged.
Thank you. Staff will draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV3-010 located at 7500 East 30th Street. Petitioner has filed an automatic continuance continuing this petition to the July 19th hearing. This would require your acknowledgement.
It's acknowledged.
Thank you. Staff will also draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV3-014 located at 7715 East 42nd Street. The petitioner has submitted a timely automatic continuance continuing this petition to the July 19th hearing. This would just require your acknowledgement.
It's acknowledged.
Thank you. Staff will also draw your attention to petition number 2022 DV3-024 located at 6832 East 82nd Street. A city county councilor acting as a remonstrator has filed a timely automatic continuance continuing this to the July 19th hearing. This would require your acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you. And finally, from me, staff will draw your attention to petition number 2022 UV3-018 located at 7801 East 38th Street. The Registered Neighborhood Organization has filed a timely automatic continuance for this petition, continuing it to the July 19th, 2022 hearing as well, just requiring your acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you.
Chairperson Taft and members of the board, staff would draw your attention to petition 2022-UV3-009, addressed at 2650 North Franklin Road. I would like to put on the record that the automatic continuance was filed by the petitioner and not the Registered Neighborhood Organization. That was an error in the report, so I apologize for that. And that would continue this to the July 19, 2022 hearing date. That would require the board's acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Staff would draw your attention again to petition 2022-UV3-011, addressed at 175 Southern Plaza Drive. Again, I apologize. The automatic continuance request was submitted by the petitioner and not the Registered Neighborhood Organization, continuing this matter to the July 19, 2022 hearing date, and that would require the board's acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you. I believe that's everything for me. Thank you.
Chairperson Taft, members of the board, staff would draw your attention to 2022 UV3-015 at 511 Madison Avenue. Petitioners filed an automatic continuance of this request to the July 19th hearing, and that just requires your acknowledgement.
It is acknowledged.
Thank you.
Okay. Unless there are any other special requests, we will now proceed with the expedited docket.
Before I read the expedited docket, can I ask staff to confirm the amendment to 2022 DV3021 on the regarding setbacks?
You said DV3021, right?
1121 East Naomi Street, correct?
Yeah, so they withdrew the 5-foot side yard setbacks because that's not needed anymore. And then-
Okay, and then open space of 50%.
Yeah.
Thank you. 2022 DV3020, amended petition, 1402 North Denny Street, Center Township, Council District 12, Zone D5. Matthew Philip Resner is requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for 6-foot tall fence along 14th Street, maximum 3.5-foot tall fence permitted. 2022 UV3016, 9910, 9972 tenant space, East Washington Street, Warren Township, Council District 19, Zone C3, TOD, Washington Corner, LP, by Andy M. Metzel, requesting a variance of use of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a banquet facility not permitted. 2022 UV3013, 203 West Morris Street, Center Township, Council District 16, Zoned I-1, Omnisite Real Estate Holdings, LLC, by David Gilman, requesting variance of use and development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for single-family detached dwelling not permitted with a 3-foot front setback from Kansas Street, 30-foot transitional yard required. 2022 DV3023, amended petition, 2703 Guilford Avenue, Center Township, Council District 17, Zone D5, In and Out Unlimited, LLC, by Jamila Mintz, requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for single-family detached dwelling with a 5-foot east rear setback, 20 feet required. 2022 DV3021, amended petition, 1121 East Naomi Street, Center Township, Council District 21, Zone D5, Glen Shake, by Mark and Kim Crouch, requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a duplex on a 4,788 square foot, 38-foot wide lot, minimum 7,200 square feet, 60-foot wide lot required, with open space of 50%, 60% required. 2022 DV3017, amended petition, 2826 North New Jersey Street, Center Township, Council District 9, Zone D5. Reggie Dodson, by Mark and Kim Crouch, requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a duplex on a 5,200 square foot lot, 5,200 square foot, 40-foot wide lot, minimum 7,200 square feet, 60-foot wide lot required for a duplex, and 50% open space, 60% open space required. Is there anyone here today in opposition to any of these petitions I've just read into the expedited docket? Chairman Taft, that is the end of the expedited docket.
Okay. So I'm trying to make sure that I have all the right numbers, guys. Heather, it's been so long since we've done paper ballots in this way.
I'm sorry, it has been a month.
Well,
shall I read them again for you slowly?
I just want to confirm just read the numbers in order and then.
2022 DV3020 and 2022 UV3016 were already in your expedited folder or pocket. And then you should have in the continued petitions pocket 2022 DV3017. Okay. And then in your pocket labeled new petitions, there would be 2022 DV3021, 2022 DV3023, and I feel like I've missed something, but that should be it.
Somehow I have an extra one.
We did miss, when you were relisting those, 2022 UV3013 203 West Morris.
Thank you, and that would have been in your continued petitions ballot pocket.
Okay. So I have 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is what I would agree with.
All right. If everyone is sure that they have the right ballots, we're going to go ahead and cast your votes.
For petitions 2022 DV3020, 2022 UV3016, 2022 UV3013, 2022 DV3023, 2022 DV3021, and 2022 DV3017. 3 votes cast, 3 yes votes. All the petitions on the expedited docket have been approved. And if you have no further business with the board, you are free to depart at this time.
Okay, after everybody leaves, Heather, we can continue with the non-expedited cases.
Thank you. (2022) DV3009, amended petition, 8630 Brookville Road, Warren Township, Council District 18, zoned I-4. BG Leasing LLC by David Kingan and Emily Duncan, requesting variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to legally establish a 27-foot east side setback for a truck repair facility, 30-foot east side setback required, and to provide for a loading dock with a 21-foot rear setback, 30-foot rear setback required, with a 6-foot chain link fence with barbed wire prohibited. All persons speaking on this today, please step forward to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty for perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Board members, the exhibit that I placed on your desk prior to hearing is for this petition. Mr. Kingan, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Chairperson Tapp, members of the board, again, David Kingan, with offices at 6180 East Market Street, here before you on case 2022 DV3009 as amended. Property located at 8630 Brookville Road, representing the petitioner BG Leasing LLC. And with me is Sikander Gurn, goes by Sam Gurn, is the petitioner and owner and operator of the property. We're not going to spend, first of all, I would like to clarify, we would like to make the request that the vote be taken in a split fashion, with A being the 2 setback variances and B being the barbed wire issue. I'm not going to spend very much time on the setbacks because they haven't changed. Mr. Grimm bought the property 4 years ago with his partner. 2 years ago, he bought out his partner, and so he has owned the property solely. But the building that is the repair shop was built before Mr. Gurn bought the property. So the setback issues that are before you today have existed for many, many years when the building was built, and they do not comply with the present setback requirements that are required in the I-2 district. I'm sorry, in the I-4 district. The setbacks are to the east, the side yard setback to the east that we're asking for a deviation, and that is required to be 30 feet, and we can meet 27 feet. So the building was built several years ago 3 feet closer to the side lot line than is permitted. And the rear has a 21-foot setback with a dock in it that 30 feet is required. That actually abuts, if you've been to the property, it is at the rear of the property, and at the rear of the property is a railway line. So that is the rear property line. And actually on the other side of the railway line is the Post Road Airport. So it's a long way before there's anything that would be impacted or affected by the reduction of the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 21 feet. Mr. Gurn, as I said, the reason that we're here is he did receive a citation from the city saying that there were three things: the lack of providing a handicap space, the fact that he that there was a sign on the property that did not have a permit and did not meet the setback requirements, and that the active use of the property for a truck and trailer parking facility was permitted. Obviously, it's permitted. I mean, this is the I-4 district, the most intense industrial district, and yet it wasn't. There was no hard surface. So when Mr. Gurn contacted me in January of this year, we started dealing with those issues. He had actually already taken care of. He has installed the handicap space that is there on the property. He has removed the sign, so there's no longer a sign issue. The only issue that we have before you today is the barbed wire. He's agreed to hard surface the property. In fact, he has Warrior Consulting waiting to hard surface the property as soon as the variance is resolved. The issue before you today is the barbed wire, and I've given you a map that shows you the information that we've obtained, that the entire property is 2,134 feet around the entire property. It's a long property, and of that, we have removed 78% of the barbed wire. So everything in yellow that you see was there earlier this year and has been removed. So that the frontage along Brookville Road and most of the two sides has been now removed from any barbed wire. The green that you see on that exhibit is a fence owned by the abutting neighbor, which has barbed wire, so we can't remove it. It's not our fence, it's not our barbed wire. It's going to remain there until code enforcement notifies the owner of 8640 that he's not permitted to have barbed wire in a I-4 district. The only area that we're wanting to keep it is the red, and that's really just because that is an area we think is not well identified. There's buildings that are blocking it, and with many trucks that are very valuable being parked on the property, which is permitted, then it does open itself up to some vandalism. Mr. Gurn has had problems with some vandalism of people entering the site unauthorized, and for that reason, we are asking the board to grant the variance to allow the barbed wire to remain just in those areas that we have identified in red that are to the south and, I'm sorry, to the north and to the west of the property. You do have a letter of support from the Warren Township Development Association for the variance. They even go on to say that they have no issue with the barbed wire, stating that they understand the plight of Mr. Gurn on dealing with the issue of of vandalism, and so for that fact, they have taken the position of support of the petitions for setback and recognize the issue with the barbed wire. We would ask that you incorporate our findings of fact as a matter of record, and either Mr. Gurn or myself would be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Unless if there are any questions, are there any, I don't think there are any questions now, but are there any remonstrators present for this? Okay, let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft and members of the board. Staff is recommending a split vote. We're recommending approval for the 27-foot east side setback that is for the existing building on site, in addition to the 20-foot rear setback that would be for the proposed loading dock to the rear. However, we are recommending denial of the variance for the existing fence that has barbed wire. So the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance prohibits the use of barbed wire except when used to enclose livestock on a site where the primary property use is agricultural uses, buildings or structures, or when the use, excuse me, or when used for public safely or security purposes for a public facility or correctional or penal institution. The proposed use would not fall under these exceptions, therefore staff would not support the variance request. Staff would note that Google Street View does indicate that there was no barbed wiring on the fence back in 2017, and it wasn't until 2018 that the barbed wire fence was put in place. There are no variances for the barbed wire at the site, nor are there any for the variance for the property to the east that also has barbed wire fencing. Therefore, both of these operations are being conducted with illegally placing barbed wire fencing around the perimeter. They may not have been aware when they purchased the property that barbed wire is prohibited, but they do have the option to rectify the problem and adhere to the standard of the ordinance by removing it. We cannot enable bad behavior from property owners present or future by granting variances after the fact. Staff would note that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance regarding the barbed wire fence would not result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because the barbed wire could be removed and therefore still adhering to the ordinance standards without any security measures that would prohibit the use of the site. In addition, they could also provide additional security or video surveillance if that is the concern. Staff would note that the trucks would also be parked along the front of the property and therefore would not have that additional barbed wiring. So I don't see how that would be a concern for vandalism if both sites on the north and on the south would have these proposed truck locations. Staff just is providing some photos on the monitor here noting where the existing barbed wire is and where it will be removed. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions of staff? Let's hear from the petitioner. You have 5 minutes.
Again, ever so briefly, staff and members of the board, again, if you it was mentioned that the petitioner, or the property owner to the east, has barbed wire that we cannot remove, so it'll have to remain there until code enforcement deals with it. But I would suggest if you drove this area from Franklin Road to Post Road, you find many industrial users in this area using barbed wire. Mr. Gurn would be the first to have removed it along the front, which he's done, and along the sides. And we feel that, again, for safety reasons and vandalism, that the area that we've requested that it remain is validated. So, again, we don't want to muddy the waters. The major issue that we're here today is Part A, because that deals with the setbacks of the existing building, and we desperately need that to retain that building. But we would ask your consideration for the granting of the barbed wire just on 22% of the perimeter fence while we have removed 78% of the barbed wire in the last 4 or 5 months. And again, we'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions of Mr. Kane? I don't see any, so we will now vote. So they asked for a split ballot. I'm suggesting that we do ballot A for the setback and ballot B for the fence. Does that work for everyone?
I don't know if Mr. Radford has had a split ballot in the past.
I have not, but yeah, we're filling out the blank ballots, correct?
That is correct.
Yes, got it, thank you.
(2022) DV3009A for the setbacks, 3 votes cast. Bohannon voted yes. Taft, yes. Radford, yes. 3 yes votes, 0 no votes. Part A is approved. 2022 DV3009B for the barbed wire, 3 votes cast. Taft voted no. Bohannon voted yes. Radford voted no. Due to the indecisive vote, Part B for the barbed wire will be automatically continued to the July hearing of Division 3, which is July 19th.
Actually, this might not be the place, but we will withdraw the Part B, but we'll file that with the city staff. But thank you very much.
You are withdrawing?
I'm not sure it's appropriate to do it now. That's our intent, yes.
Let's wait and let him submit something in writing, please.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, Chairman Taft, you did not sign this, so I'll be bringing it back around for you. (2022) DV3019 11741 Prospect Street, Warren Township, Council District 19, Zone DA. Eric Carter is requesting a variance of development standards of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for a 3-acre parcel with 40 feet of street frontage and lot width, 125 feet of lot frontage, 250 feet of lot width required. All persons speaking on this today, please step forward to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty for perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Eric Carter. My address is 11741 Prospect Street, Indianapolis, Indiana 46239.
Thank you. You have 15 minutes.
Yes, I am requesting to splitting. I have 7 acres and I was wanting to split it to 3 acres. And a part of splitting the 3 acres, I would need to add a driveway from the street frontage. And the variance calls for 125 foot of frontage, 250 feet of lot width. What is required, and based off the illustrations, I wouldn't meet that, so that's why I'm requesting this variance.
Are there any questions of the petitioner? Are there any remonstrators present? Okay, let's hear from staff.
Thank you, Chairperson Taft, members of the board. Development standards relating to street frontage are intended to ensure that a property has adequate, unobstructed, and direct access from a public right-of-way. This proposal is contrary to orderly future development and the development standards. The parcel proposed by the petitioner meets the size of the DA district. However, the petitioner is proposing to plat the second parcel without providing proper street frontage that is necessary for an area proposed for rural or estate neighborhood development. The proposed northern parcel would contain the existing dwelling and keep approximately 360 feet of the street frontage, which would exceed the ordinance requirement for street frontage. By this arrangement, access and use of the proposed additional southern parcel would be hindered, and staff believes that as proposed would negatively affect the resulting properties and neighbors in surrounding it. Moreover, with the approximate 400 feet of total street frontage available for this existing parcel, these parcels could be developed each with at least 125 feet of lot frontage as required by the ordinance without variances, and that would also be consistent with other nearby lots. Staff has concerns about dwellings being built in front of other dwellings. Allowing new development to be located via a narrow drive instead of a street hinders emergency vehicles from finding and easily accessing residential dwellings in emergency situations. This can affect the safety of current and future owners, the surrounding neighborhood, and the responding public safety employees as well. In order for the grant of a variance of development standards to be valid, all 3 findings of fact must be met. The first finding requires that the board find that the grant would not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. If the dwelling were constructed upon the proposed parcel with the inadequate street frontage and inadequate lot width, it would not be apparent to service providers where the dwelling or parcel is located. As the flag lot entrance would be located next to existing dwelling entrance, it would be easy to mistake one lot for entrance for another. Even if the service provider were able to eventually identify the dwellings of the proposed parcels, valuable time could be wasted during an emergency or life-threatening situation, which can endanger both the occupants of such a dwelling and the emergency responders. Therefore, staff does not believe finding number 1 could be met due to that situation. Third finding of fact requires the board find that the strict application of the terms of the ordinance would constitute a practical difficulty if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. As indicated, there's 400 feet of street frontage. The lot can be split with the required 125-foot lot frontage per parcel. In addition, the strict application of the ordinance would not result in a practical difficulty in that the property could continue to be utilized as a single-family dwelling as it was originally developed in 2015. With that, staff does recommend a denial. We'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions of staff?
Can I say anything else?
Yeah, you get 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Also, what I'm requesting too is, if you look at the diagram of what I'm requesting in my lot, my actual parcel on 11741 to, I guess, the west, if you're going west on Prospect Street, what we're trying to do, this same person has this same street frontage, and actually their house is a lot further back than what we're requesting. So in regards to EMS and, you know, police and all that stuff, getting to this new parcel, it would actually be less distance than the parcel that's directly across the street from me. So, like I said, this parcel that I'm trying to do is, like I said, it's less of a drive, or the driveway wouldn't be as long as for the EMS to reach that new parcel, versus across the street that already has a parcel, and the drive is very long if you look at that parcel. And that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any questions? Then we are ready to vote on 2022 DV3019.
This is B. Thank you. 2022 DV3019, 3 votes cast. Radford voted no. Taft, no. Bohannon, no. 0 yes votes, 3 no votes. This petition is denied and will be continued for the adoption of findings of fact in support of the board's decision. 2022 UV3017, 1146 Tecumseh Street, Center Township, Council District 17, Zone D8. Indy Improvements, LLC by Jason Wolf, requesting a variance of use of the Consolidated Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance to provide for an accessory structure with an 804 square foot secondary dwelling unit, not permitted without a primary dwelling. Secondary dwelling cannot exceed 720 square feet. Without the owner of the secondary dwelling unit living on the property, not permitted, and to provide for a swimming pool in front of the established building line. Accessory structure not permitted without a primary structure, not permitted in front of established building line. All persons speaking on this today, please step forward to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty for perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jason Wolf. My address is 1617 Cornell Avenue, Indianapolis. So this project is located at 1146 Tecumseh, and the property currently has an existing 1.5-story single-family residence on it. The intent is that that would be demolished as part of this development. We had looked into the rehabilitation of that home as an alternative to this plan, but ultimately that house is in pretty deep disrepair, especially on the inside, and we just couldn't find a way to feasibly do that. The proposed design is for a 2-story carriage house at the rear of the property, and then, as mentioned, a pool that would sit in that front yard space in front of the carriage house. The property owners live in the house just to the south of this, and so the development is intended to be for their use. And that's kind of, I think that this is a somewhat unusual circumstance just because it is kind of an owner with 2 side-by-side lots wanting to have a use that is different than typically would be seen. The carriage house as planned is located at the rear of the property and is in the same type of location as a standard carriage house would be. And the intent is that in the future that a primary residence could be built in front of that carriage house. And indeed, that is the client's intent in the future, is to do that. But of course, we can't guarantee that that's going to happen. The scale of the structure was dictated by the program of the carriage house. So essentially it's set up so that it will function as a garage for the carriage house, provide an exercise space for the clients, as well as kind of a small changing room that would service the pool. And then the intent is that in the future that exercise room can be converted into a garage space that would serve the primary residence when it was built in the future. And this just, because we kind of had that extra little space to provide space for changing for the pool, it just meant that the structure got a little bit bigger than the allowed 720 square feet for an accessory dwelling unit. We feel that this project is unlikely to set much of a precedent just because it is an unusual circumstance where you have the owners living next door and wanting to, in my mind, underdevelop this lot for the moment just because they have kind of this special use. That said, there are existing accessory uses without primary structures. In fact, just across the street at 1129 Tecumseh, there's an accessory structure that sits on a lot all by itself. It's just a garage. That one is it's a little bit different because it serves the house on the property to the north of it, and that property doesn't have its own garage, but I think in fact, how the development looks is essentially the same. And I don't know that there's anything that would stop that owner from building out another garage in back of their own house. There's also a much better precedent at 2028 North Park Avenue. It's obviously not in Windsor Park, but it's a very similar development where there's a house that has a carriage house, and then they were granted, this was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, they were granted to build an additional carriage house on a property next door, as well as a pool in front of that carriage house. So it's a very similar development. We felt that that was a good example of kind of the intent of this project. We understand that staff opposes the variance requests, but the proposed solution is to build a primary residence, which obviously is a pretty big hardship because it's talking about building a structure that's $400,000, $600,000, $800,000 just to be able to build the accessory unit behind it. The other option, of course, is that they build a primary residence that essentially performs the same function as this carriage house would. Counterintuitively, that kind of would lead to the lot being underdeveloped because they would have to build that house essentially to the code minimum size just to make it financially feasible, and so you would end up with a very small house that, while it meets the ordinance, would not kind of fit with the fabric of the neighborhood. And ultimately, we kind of feel that this is what the variance process is for, is that we're asking for something that is not allowed to solve a problem that we feel like our clients have, and that isn't going to be harmful to the community in any way, obviously. I think that we're willing to be flexible. I think ultimately we'd just like to have a conversation and understand if there's a path forward with this design concept. And if we need to make adjustments, I think that we're open to that. We understand that we probably need to take a continuance because we have issues with the finding of fact that need to be corrected. But we wanted to have a conversation with the board and just understand if this is something that you feel like in concept can work, or if there are amendments that we can make, or if this is something that we should perhaps not pursue. Anyway, I will turn it over to staff.
Let's hear from staff first.
I just want to confirm if the request is for a continuance. I don't necessarily want to, I can converse with him at a later time if it's going to be continued.
So I guess he said he was interested in a conversation. I guess the question is, have you had a conversation with him? Typically in this hearing, we're not negotiating things. I mean, usually we're wanting all those conversations to happen with staff, before you come, with staff and with the neighbors, before you come here. So I didn't know if you had anything else that you wanted to mention along that line, or.
I mean, we have definitely discussed the petition and what staff would probably support, and it's kind of all laid out within the staff report as well. So I just wanted to ensure if you're just asking for a continuance right now, or so we can discuss this at a further time, or whether I should proceed with what staff is recommending.
I mean, I think that, I guess I don't think that there's any way that we're going to get approved today, in all likelihood. So I think that we would want to ask for a continuance.
Okay. So just to be a little, so I agree with, I don't know how people vote, but I think it might be good for a continuance. I think just for you to understand that, so typically you would present your case, typically staff would present their ideas, and then we vote on it. That's typically a hearing, right? And so for you to present your case, and then for staff to tell us what they think, and then for us to say, okay, come back another day, that's just unusual. We don't usually have that whole hearing and then say we're not going to vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I apologize because I'm much more familiar with the IHPC hearing process, which is much more of a discussion type of process.
Yes.
And I think that it hasn't felt like we've had a whole lot of constructive discussion.
Okay.
It's mainly just been,
yeah,
no, we don't think that this should be approved, and so that's why we're hoping to get some feedback from the board, just to understand if in concept this is something that could be
I understand that. I think typically we don't even discuss, that different boards have different, I don't know if you're the same attorney for IHPC or not, but there are different cultures on the board, and typically we don't even try to influence each other. Does that make sense? We vote. I have no idea when we're voting, what my peers or my colleagues are going to vote for. I listen to your argument, I listen to the staff's argument, and then I do my best to make my own decision. So our culture is to not have that conversation. Is that correct, Mr.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not typical to...
If you're advising us to change our culture, that would be, this is what, I've been doing this 15 years and this is what I've been told to do. So if,
right.
Yeah.
No, so I think at this point, we just need to see if there's an interest, if someone has an interest in continuing it, putting forth a motion to continue it.
And then to continue your conversation with staff.
Can I make just one comment right here? I just want to make sure that the petitioner is aware that if this is continued to further discussion, that there isn't a false expectation that there will be a middle ground that is agreed upon, that staff is going to review the request against the criteria required for a favorable recommendation. And I just want to make sure that it's clear to the petitioner and the board that a continuance does not necessarily guarantee that there will be a compromise.
Correct, that's understood.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if you look at our zoning, sometimes we vote in agreement with staff, sometimes we don't. They're sad when we don't, but sometimes that happens. So I don't know what the success rate is on IHPC's board, between board and staff, but...
yeah, probably much higher because I think that IHPC tends to be finding a solution rather than just voting yes or no, but.
Yes.
So if I'm clear, as I heard earlier, you think that you will request to continue to have discussion with staff. Is that still your desire?
I think it's probably wise for us to request a continuance, yes.
So are you asking us to consider your request for continuance?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to pull the board. O'Hannon?
Bohannon, yes.
Bradford?
Yes.
Taft, yes. So we'll see you back here, right?
Thanks.
Okay. Is there any other matter to come before the board?
We got to this point in the hearing much faster than I anticipated. There is a possibility that I have findings of fact from previous hearings somewhere deep in my folder that could be adopted today. And other than that possibility, I have no additional business.
We are adjourned.